Hello there. So we're doing a dual cast to Facebook and Instagram, and hopefully that'll be as normal. So I'm not going to explain that each time. Um, I'm There's no real set topic for today. We're just going to have a bit of a chat about, or a one-way discussion about just my thoughts for today on this Wednesday. So we're 3 weeks into lockdown. Where are you guys coming in from? Hi, Avik. Where are you guys uh, dialing in from, as it were? It'd be good to know what location you guys are at. I was thinking of having a midweek break from my live casts because I'm always busy with the kids and with things going on, and I thought no, I've committed to doing this every day now, so I'm going to keep going, and I'll give you something to listen to, hopefully, and something that will give you some value and that you can take away with you. So we're waiting just for a few more people to come in. We've got somebody from Surrey. I'm sure Chelsea's from the Philippines, but she hasn't said. And Lisa is from somewhere outside London, southwest, I think. Avik is thinking Essex kind of way, but I could be completely wrong there. Claire is definitely from very north. I think that's Scotland, Edinburgh, or Glasgow. So there's a good range of people. So I'm going to talk about today what I've learned about how do small businesses scale up, and how do small businesses, dental practices, but any small business really, how do we think about ourselves scaling up and moving forward, and to think like big businesses. So that's the first one, I think, is to think big and to think like big businesses. And by that I mean, so you've got your shop, your chiropractor, your physiotherapist, your dental practice, opticians, whatever it may be. But if you're making decisions about your business, how would those decisions change if you were a bigger business or a bigger organization? Say you had 12 sites or 10 sites. Would that change the way that you behaved in terms of your practice? So something I see really quite often, especially in small shops and small businesses, is they're not tidy and they're not clean, and you see, like, cobwebs hanging from ceilings, and it's just not an inviting place to be. And I see that in a lot of takeaways in food establishments, where you think, well, if the area outside is not clean, or the area in the waiting area or the takeaway area is not clean, then is the kitchen going to be clean? And I guess this is what goes through patients' minds when they see there's clutter and things are not organised, and that coat that's been hanging there has been hanging there the last time they were there. So I think if you thought like a bigger business, like a multi-site operation, I don't think you'd accept that. I don't think you'd allow that kind of standard to exist. So I think the first one is think big, and let that allow you to, or let that focus you to be better. So believe you're already big. And the second thing I'd come to is be a problem solver. But not just be a problem solver, because I think that makes you an engineer, and I probably want you to be a problem solver with heart. And by that I mean, we're in the healthcare business as dentists in the main, you guys watching, and I'd probably want and so I hope that I deliver care with compassion. So it's not just about fixing something, filling a hole, replacing a tooth. It's to do that with compassion, and with the fact that there is a person attached to this filling that I'm putting in, this hole that I'm dealing with, or this problem that I'm solving. And frequently, and especially the way the NHS works, is, we've already diagnosed before the patient's walked in the door, just from the pop-up note from the receptionist as to why the appointment's booked. Tooth pain, upper left 6. We know we did a filling in that last week. It's going to be needing root canal treatment. We've already diagnosed. We've not stopped to think. So I'd say be a problem solver with heart, and remember that there is a patient that exists, and lots of practices. I know Susie's watching today, and her practice is amazing for delivering heart-centered care, I'd say. So some of us do it well. I definitely think about this a lot, and I think when I visit practices, when I talk to people who run practices, or even associates who are delivering care, yes, we do have to earn an income, and we do have to make sure it is profitable, because we've got our staff to pay and we've got their mortgages on our heads, but it doesn't mean we can't be compassionate to our patients. And I've worked out that, when you look down your list and you see those trouble patients, and that heart sink moment you get that Mrs. X is back in with her denture adjustment the 50th time, I never feel like that, because that's another option for me to shine and to grow and to develop. And if you look down your list and you get those trouble patients that makes your heart sink, give me a thumbs up if you've felt that lately. I just think that we have to reframe what that means. They're not coming in because they want to bother us. They're coming in because they feel they need our help. And yes, for the 50th time, it might be difficult for us, but we are professionals and we have to deliver care compassionately no matter what. Forget GDC standards. We've got to do that anyway. And we've got to put patients above ourselves. But we have to deliver care always through that lens of compassion. So think big, think like you're already big, and be a problem solver, but a problem solver with heart. And I think take time to be curious. I definitely put that in it. So we're talking, if you guys have joined late, about how small businesses scale up. How do they do more than just deliver care to their cohort? Which is not, I'm not demeaning that, belittling that. That's still very important. But I think we must take time to think and be creative, be curious, talk to our patients, talk to our staff. It's surprising how much we will learn from people inside dentistry and outside dentistry. I frequently talk to hairdressers and to other personal care, people doing beauty work, where they go into people's houses. It's amazing what it's amazing what you can learn about customer service from non-dentists. I think we're very blinkered sometimes in our approach to how we look after patients. I do a bit of work with property and coaching in property, and I know that when I talk to my serviced accommodation, my Airbnb colleagues who solely deal in Airbnb rentals, it's all about service. It's all about, and we've all stayed in Airbnb, it's all about service, isn't it? It's all about delivering a level of service that is top-notch, exemplary, so that you can get that feedback and that recognition that this provider is a good provider. And don't we all want that in our businesses? And shouldn't we look to offer world-class customer service? And what I want you to do is I want you to be curious about outside of dentistry. And when you're doing your daily commute, your daily shop, your daily whatever it is, and you're interacting with the general public and you're a customer somewhere else, frequently I've been at a hotel where I've been bowled over by and we're talking a Premier Inn, I don't stay in expensive places, but I'm really impressed to find amazing customer service where I wouldn't have expected it. In the local Tesco Express, I always get a smile, I always get a how are you, I always get engaged in conversation, and I think that's amazing. So often we go through our patient lists or our client lists, and we don't engage and talk about the things that matter to people, and we don't engage and truly try and connect. And in these days where connection is very, very important, and it's not generally face-to-face at the moment, I think it's even more important that we grow and change, and then when we step out of this time period, we take those learnings, those points of growth and development with us. So I think the next thing in how small businesses can scale up is to test ideas and refine. But don't get lost in the analysis paralysis. It's all too often that we have an idea, but we don't execute on that idea because we're worried that it isn't good enough, or it's not quite right, or the sales collateral is not there. I personally think we should aim for as high a level as we can, but good enough is good enough sometimes. And good enough is good enough for now. You can always refine and develop what you've produced and what you've done. So I don't know, example might be an open day for a product, or it might be a photo shoot for a new property that you're putting onto Airbnb. The photos don't have to be perfect. The open day has to have a certain key number of key elements, but it doesn't have to be 100% there, otherwise it will never be released and you'll never move forward. And I just feel that those elements, if you try to get to 100%, can frequently reduce your impact, and reduce your impact to zero if you never actually release it. So don't get lost in analysis paralysis. And you usually find this with people who've worked in banking and finance, where they don't tend to release things to market without it going through 12 layers of bureaucracy. So then to put your entrepreneur hat on, it's very difficult to then move to designing something and releasing it straight away. It's very difficult to do that, but sometimes good enough is good enough, and you've got to take a bit of a risk. The other thing I'd like to say about scaling up and thinking about new things is, frequently we have that internal dialogue with ourselves where we say, it's not, I can't do that. But I want you to ask yourselves, instead of I can't do that, why not? Why can't I change my working hours and do a 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning start to a 5 o'clock in the evening, and do a 12-hour or even 14-hour day and have 2 shifts running, 2 shifts of 7 hours? Because in a dental practice, unlike other businesses, the assets, the chair, the light, the premises are very expensive. The materials are not so expensive, but the kit, the drill, the handpiece, all the kit that we use is very expensive. And for it to be only used for 8 hours a day seems a silly idea. So why can't I run a 14-hour day and have 2 shifts? If your business will take that and needs it. But I'm just giving an example of how you can think a little bit outside the box. And that's probably a still in the box thought. There's probably things a bit more way out there that I haven't thought of. So always think to yourselves, look outside your industry and see where you can benefit and bring it back to dentistry. And then look outside your business and think, why not? Why can't I do that in dentistry? Why can't I? What stops me? And think about being disruptive. Think about changing the landscape, because it's only those people that contemplate, take time to be curious and think outside of their comfort zone who are going to, I think, excel and, well, survive to begin with, and then excel in what is a very changed landscape. I mean, the Chancellor was talking about a 30% reduction in GDP. I think that's going to affect all industries. Certainly dentistry is going to be affected, because on top of that we've got the cross-infection issue and how that's going to change our working lives. So I think this is the time to really have some blue sky thinking, to innovate, to develop your practice, and really test out some things that you might not have done in the past. Because what have you got to lose? If, for example, we take a hit of 30%, and it's going to take us time to ramp up to that 30%, that reduced income or that reduced turnover for our businesses, I think we do have to be innovative and come up with solutions. Yeah, the 5% who won't follow the herd, says Steve. So yeah, that's right. So we've got to be innovative, and we've got to be focused on our goals, as we talked about, and we've got to really think outside the box. So I'm trying to get my team together and to have some blue sky thinking on one of the task management apps, Trello, that we use, to really throw their ideas down and give us some. I've asked for 3 crazy ideas and 3 what they think is normal ideas, but I really want them just to think and open their minds to anything. So one of my team came up with a really, really good idea, that we do a kids day anyway, and we've been doing that for years. We have a face painter who's amazing. We have a Pennington bear, a full-size Pennington bear, turns up, greets the kids, waves to the cars that pass by, and it's great advertising, and it's great promotion for lifelong smiling, and for minimally invasive dentistry, and for kids dentistry, and for no filling dentistry, in terms of trying to keep teeth that are unfilled for life. But one of my nurses, Kelly, she came up with a really good idea that there are a lot of patients that, a lot of children that are autistic, disabled, that need a quieter time. So you'll notice in some shopping centres there's a quiet hour where people who need a bit more time and don't want music blaring in shops can come in and quietly do their work. They quietly do their shopping. And she suggested maybe we incorporate that into our kids' days. So maybe the first hour of our kids' days is for those patients, where instead of having 5 and 10 minute appointments for kids, we would have 15-minute appointments and try and see 4 to 8 kids that and whose parents need a bit more time. And that could include kids who are a bit nervous, kids who are for the first time. But I think I would like to start it with kids who are autistic or have some behavioural problems and really need more of our time, that we can't rush them through the practice, maybe as we do a bit with our kids, because we have to get through a lot. But so there's some great ideas coming up, and I just implore you to ask your team, because you'd be surprised what they would want to change in the practice. And it might not be something that you really want to change, but sometimes we have to do the things we don't want to do if we are to grow and be the practice and the business that we want to be. So I think I come at this with looking at my own business and how I want to scale up. And that's not necessarily scaling up to buy more practices, have more income. It's scaling up in terms of the thoughts about your practice and how you can deliver care better. And that may mean having a water cooler in your reception. It might be little things that the staff want. We got rid of the kettles in our practice, and you're going to say that's really cruel, but what we put in was a hot tap, and it's fantastic because when they go to make a cup of tea, it's much quicker. They don't have to wait for the kettle to boil. It's much more energy efficient because the kettle's boiled by 12 different people in a space of 10 minutes. And I think it's a nice little touch for the practice. And so it doesn't have to be very big things, but just be curious, look outside dentistry, and always say why not and why not me. I really think the hours of working where we close at between 1 and 2, where you think that most people will be on their lunch and will want to be contacting the practices, I think that's a really key time to grab patients. I think at this time as well, there'll be a lot of practices that are not doing anything for their patients, and if you're providing a better service, all fair in love and war, as they say, if they're not available to their patients, and they're calling you for assistance, I don't feel it's unreasonable for you to provide that assistance and make sure they know that you're taking on patients, or you're keen to bring them into your practice and give them the customer service that you feel they deserve. So I think that's a quick roundup of how businesses scale. There's not much more. I don't want to bore you too much, guys. If you do want to keep up with any PDFs I create, or want to keep in touch with me on the other channels, if you're watching on Facebook Live, please add me on Instagram. And if you're watching on Instagram, add me on Facebook. That'd be really good. I will put a link to the YouTube channel where all these videos go. I've decided not to simultaneously cast to YouTube because I was having trouble with the syncing of the audio. But I'll get around that in time, and we'll try and do it on 3 platforms. And if I'm really good, I'll try and do it on LinkedIn as well, and do 4. And it saves me uploading it then afterwards to different platforms. So if you've got any ideas of how you can scale or what's worked for you, I'll be really interested to know. Please private message. And as usual, if you feel I can help you with anything, then I'm here to help you. Take care, guys. And thanks for the waves. And I'll see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And hopefully I'll try and get you a topic that we're going to talk about then. Take care.